Hello. One thing Reason won't do is send a MIDI clock to multiple external devices. Playing external devices is pretty easy. So I got a Behringer Model D, and you can see it here. Hook up the MIDI out device, put it on the right channel on the right port, and it'll play. Same with the Mini Brew S2 that I have. Got it set up for bass sound. And you can see it here. But it has a pretty good sequencer I like to use. It's a nice change of pace from drawing in notes. You might be asking, well, why don't you just use the sequencer to sequence and not worry about the clock? Just put the notes in the sequencer. And Reason, well, there's a lot of reasons. It's nice to get away from the mouse. Also, I have a bunch of Eurorack modular gear, which needs CV. So you'd have to buy a separate module to convert MIDI into CV to control the modules. I got the BeatStep Pro, which is great. It'll sequence and send drum triggers. It's really great to use with Eurorack, and there's a bunch of sequencer modules that are popular that people like to use for Eurorack modules, but it would be nice to be able to keep the tempo the same from your virtual instruments and regular MIDI and your CV Eurorack devices. And there's also features on a lot of the sequencers, like the little looper bar on the BeatStep Pro, and I also have the Drum Brute, which also has a looper bar. If you just send it notes, you can't get those effects. So we'll press play, and it'll play the sequence. And the S2, you can see the sequencer moving through the steps, and that's great. It's 109 BPM that I randomly picked, and it's doing its thing. But you see the BeatStep Pro and the Minilog XD and the extreme right of your picture, the Drum Brute just sitting there because it's not getting the start and stop and clock messages. But we can fix that with two free pieces of software. The first one is Loop MIDI by Tobias Eriksson. It's super simple and super useful. It's a virtual MIDI cable that you can make as many connections to it as you need. You should be somewhat familiar with virtual cables just from using Reason. It's very similar to the virtual cables between devices. And once you install it, it'll pop out like this. We just need one Loop MIDI port. You could add more if you need to, but that should do it for us. And the next piece of software you need is MIDIOX. And get ready for some nostalgia because it is the 90s again. The program was last updated in January of 2011. I believe it comes from the 90s. You can tell from the web design it's been around a while, but it's super powerful and useful. And once you get installed, it looks like this. Again, a bit of nostalgia here. The interface isn't really straightforward. What all those icons do is a little confusing, but you can mouse over them. This is the routing. We're going to take a look at that. We don't have anything. The event port is just to send information to. So in the event window, you can see the events. And once you get them going, they'll look like that. But I went back to scratch to show you how this works. And the next thing we need is we click on the MIDI jack here. I got 8 things to route, so you would think that would be hard, but it's super simple. As an input, we need our loop MIDI. And then I have a MIDI breakout box with 8 ports. And I'm going to pick all 8 of those and hit OK. And there we go. Everything's done for us. Now loop MIDI is connected to everything. Now, if we hit play, we still only get the S2 and its sequence. The reason why is we have to go to Preferences and Reason, pick the Sync tab already opened. That's the port that the S2 is on. Guess what? We need to pick loop MIDI. So now it'll send the clock to that. And in MIDI aux, that is going to send the clock to every port we have connected. And if you need to, there's a bunch of filtering options. You can pick what channels you want to send. I'm just going to leave it for now. There's a bunch of other filters. It'll do pretty much whatever you need to do. So now if we took a look at the hardware again, and when we press play, you see everything's working together. You hear the drums, sequencers moving in tempo with each other. This issue. I hope this helps. I've seen some people on forums give up. Even one person get a refund on Reason because it wouldn't send the clock to multiple devices. But after a few minutes and a couple downloads, you can control all your hardware. Have fun, make some music.